Yeah, for those who don't know, I mean, your main gig right now is really
Yeah.
the public speaking stuff, and this has been an extremely busy month. So the people who are, there's the people who tune in who just want to hear the interviews, and then there's the people who are the more diehard fans of the show, and they want to hear what you're up to and what I'm up to. And for you, I mean, you've been all over. You were in St. Kitts, you
Yeah, I
were
was in
in Ohio.
Asheville, North Carolina, Charlotte, St. Kitts, which I didn't know St. Kitts was part of the UK. I
I
didn't
didn't
know.
either, to
I
be
was like,
honest, but I'm
I was
terrible
like
with
going to the Bahamas.
geography.
Well, I was like going to the Bahamas. I get there and like, did you fill out your visa paperwork? Like, visa paperwork? What's that? Well, you're in the UK. Oh shit. Well, luckily for me, it's everything's via damn cell phone now. I just done and they let me in. And but it was wonderful. And then flew back to Cincinnati and did a couple events in Cincinnati, which and stayed at a place called the Nederland Plaza. It's a Hilton hotel. Oh my God, it was gorgeous, dude. I mean, I love St. Kitts. St. Kitts was beautiful. You know, you're in the West Indies, you're in the islands, you're in the Caribbean. It is gorgeous. And I did one picture there. That's a posting that picture before Veterans Day of me running on the beach and it was beautiful. But you know what? That's a long ass flight. That's 3.5 hours from Miami, and it was just a long trip, but it was wonderful. The group I was with, Havtech, a tremendous group. But going to Cincinnati and speaking for the Cincinnati police, and then also speaking, the Cincinnati mayor was there, the chief, and doing 2 events there, and then staying at the Nederland Plaza. For anyone that has gone to Cincinnati, go stay there or go visit there. It's like you ever seen people have seen The Shining? Have you seen that
Yeah.
genre of not when Jack Nicholson's the killer, but when he's visiting the ghost, the back in the day with the suits and tie, the tuxes going to parties and back in the I guess be the Roaring 20. When was Prohibition? 20s. When was
Yeah, that sounds
fucking
right.
the 20. That's what it still looked like. It still has all that old facade and all the old architecture. I swear there's probably still old ghosts in there floating around. But that was beautiful to finish the trip up after 2 weeks of traveling and then to go there and then to speak to people that I consider my peers, which is, to me, that's an honor. I mean, speaking to corporations is an honor. That's an honor. Just speaking to anybody that's still this long is to me, it blows my mind because I never thought I'd be doing anything like this. But and I love speaking to the corporations, speaking to the different groups out there. Spoke to Invesco while I was in Cincinnati, the financial company. Great people, tremendous. But going and speaking for like veterans or law enforcement, that's humbling because a lot of those guys know, I mean, they've been through more than I have, and they're still willing to sit there and listen to me run my suck. And a lot of times they do get something out of it, I think they do, and I get something out of it as well because it's therapeutic talking to those guys because they get it, or they've gone through a lot, have gone through, especially the old hats where they've had to sacrifice themselves, or they had a buddy die in the line of duty, or they have experienced death and life where they've saved people. So to me, speaking to them, it's humbling because like, well, why you guys want to listen to me? You got your own stories. Not saying the corporate people don't. A lot of them have gone through a lot of shit too. Believe me, I've talked to people after and like have been through hell and back just in normal life, just having just life. And
Yeah.
but I don't know, it's just different. It just
Well, yeah,
feels
I think
different.
people like to be inspired by stuff that is outside of their realm,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
Because
You're right.
actually last episode with Jack Stewart, so he's a fiction author now, but Jack was saying to me, I asked Jack, I was like, "Why?" He's had an amazing career, Top Gun,
Yeah.
school, all of that, being a part of JSOC combat missions, and I was like, "This is like an awesome biography. What made you not write a memoir and jump right into fiction?" And he said to me, he's like, "I gotta be honest, like, if I saw a book on the shelf with my story, he's like, I wouldn't pick it up. I don't think I did anything that remarkable. But I think for like me as a civilian, I'm like, you kidding me? That is remarkable."
And that's something that even all of us had to be convinced. I didn't think our story was that big a deal. I remember talking
You
to
had to have though, because your
no,
story was major news and a major conspiracy, not in the way that
well,
Obama puts it, but a
but this
conspiracy in the
this
way that the government covered it
this
up.
is before y'all knew.
Yeah.
This is when we were this is when we were deciding if we wanted to move forward. And I remember all of us, including Jack Silva, was part of that. We visited with and hey, before CIA, before you even try to come down on us, we had our clearance attorney. We already were moving forward that. We said nothing that was classified at the time, nothing. But we went to when after this agent and the book publisher, and spoke with Three Arts Entertainment, tremendous book publisher. He'd also produced the movie, and Hachette, and I remember telling the story, and this is, we had been cleared by our attorney, and he sat there with us, our clearance attorney by the name of Mark Zaid, and he's making sure we're saying what we're supposed to be able to say, without violating our security clearances. And I remember thinking, God, this really isn't that big a deal. And Oz was right next to me, Jack
Well,
was right next to me, and
if I jump in there though,
no, go ahead,
there
bud.
are already books written about Benghazi. There were already books, so you knew people were interested.
We're interested in it, but as far as just getting in a gunfight or a few gunfights in one night, and remember, global war on terror by that point had been going on for almost 10 years, so I'd seen a lot of that. I'd experienced other things, and there's guys that I knew had even experienced more. So it's like, wow, what's so special about us? But you're right, brother. You're perfectly right. But I felt like Stewart, like Jack, is it Jack? Why did I forget his name? Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stewart. It's like, there's other story. Why is this a big deal? I mean, Lone Survivor had come out. Like, well, you already got Lone Survivor. Why you need our stuff? And then, I don't know if American Sniper had that come out yet. I don't know if that had or not. I knew Lone Survivor had.
Yeah, Lone Survivor. But I'll
Black
be
Hawk
honest,
Down,
this was
Black Hawk Down.
mentioned. This was mentioned on the episode 2 episodes ago.
Oh.
That was not the best episode, but he did make a point that is true. I mean, this is factually true, and it could be corroborated by people that
Sure.
were there, like Leo Jenkins. Like, a lot of the details in Lone Survivor were
Yeah,
exaggerated. That's
yeah,
just a fact. And the Benghazi story, I guess, to me, I'm unbiased on this, just because it's not just because I know you. I personally think is a more remarkable story.
we appreciate that, and that, to me, that honors Ty and Glenn. To me, ain't anything. And if before I move into this, I want to point this out. I wish people would stop getting into the politics of Benghazi. It's done, guys. Get the fuck out of there. I want us to focus, and that's where I'm trying. When I speak, do speaking events, I do nothing political. I don't talk about politics. Fuck that. I put the focus back on where it should be, honoring Ty and Glenn and Kris and Sean, and honoring the guys I serve with, and seeing heroism in action, which witnessing from a rooftop, watching guys on my team do things, not thinking of their own lives and doing it for the betterment of others. That's the story. That is what Benghazi should be remembered about. And the reason why I'm getting back to what you said about the story, yeah, it is truthful, because there wasn't just one of us telling the story. And I even talked to you on the phone about this when I called you. I was like, hey, Hachette and Three Arts actually did try to see if we were pulling their legs, because they would have us tell our story, but they would put us in a different room, and they would, each one of us, get all of our stories of what happened to us individually that night. So Oz would do his thing, Tig would do his thing, me, we're all different places. And when we got all done, they brought all the stories together to see if there were any misconceptions, misconstrued, anything, any fabrication, any embellishment. And there wasn't. And it's like, and I remember they would even come and ask us, they're like, hey, this is all meshing, it all works out. We're like, well, yeah. Why the fuck wouldn't it mesh? We all were there.
I could
we're
even
not
understand
lying,
that they
we're
would
not
feel it, though,
anything.
that it may just because of the fact that, I mean, moments like that, I would, as someone who's never been in it, I would think it is kind of hazy, and I would think someone's memory or recollection could be a little bit different
Well,
than another person's.
there's fogs of war. I mean, there are time frames, Boone still thinks it was 9:42. I still think it was 9:32 because I looked at my watch. The actual what's it, Congress, the actual report came out and said 9:42. I was like,
this is an extremely minor detail, though, compared to their discrepancies. And once again, it's like, no disrespect to Marcus Luttrell, but like, those are more major discrepancies of like the amount of people that they were fighting.
You're
totally does not. And that's why I'm like, man, it would actually be great to get someone like Leo Jenkins on, because I'd actually rather hear from him, a guy who's a part of Operation Red Wings, to say, this is what actually happened, and I was there.
Leo's such a great guy, though, and we've had Leo on before. We just didn't get into it. And I'm the same way. Marcus is a good dude. I got nothing bad to say about Marcus Luttrell. He's a good dude. I've met him once, and I actually at his movie premiere, The Lone Survivor, met him. Actually, we've met a few times. I'm sorry, we've met more than once. We've met a couple times, but we're not best friends or nothing.
Yeah.
But he was on his own, dude. Up in the mountains, Afghanistan. I know how fucking scary just being up in those damn mountains are, and being on your own, and his friends did die around him. I know what that
Of
feels like
course.
too.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I got, if people want to poo-poo and hit Lone Survivor, I was, you know, I'll listen to Leo because he was there. He went on the rescue mission, and I want to hear that. But as far as people hammering on Lone Survivor, fuck you guys.
No,
Fuck
I
until
don't even think it's a hammering on, but I would say this just because now that it's known that some of those details were incorrect, I just because I personally don't know. Now when he does speaking events, does he still use the same story
I
that's in
don't
the
know.
book, or does he
I don't
say,
know.
"Hey, I got this wrong"? Because I think, in those cases, you have to be humble and say, "I got some stuff that's wrong," and
Yeah, I that I don't know. I know, you know, he does a lot of public speaking. Well, I don't think he's like me. I think he really has shut it down a lot. I used to do 60, 70 a year. I'm sure he was the same. Now I
it's
do like
insane. Yeah.
maybe 10, because beyond, it does fuck my head up now. It does. After I got home, you know, when I got home from Cincinnati, I go dark. And it does. It takes me about 15 days, and I'm still kind of all over the place, because it is, you're reliving that experience over. And if you are a good public speaker, a good combat public speaker that people want to hear you relive your story, you are reliving it, and you're reliving those emotions, and that's what makes you a good public speaker. I think that's my opinion. That's,
Yeah.
for me, that's what it is. It's not even necessarily, well, the contents, I think the contents there is what it is, but it does mess your head up, because you're reliving. I relive every time I talk about watching Tyrone and Glenn getting hit with those mortars, because I was shooting over their heads. You know, I watched. I see it. I can see the flash. I can see the 5 flashes, the bam and the bam. I can picture me still shooting over their heads and looking behind me to make sure nobody's coming. And what I'm saying is, I'm sure Marcus, when he tells a story, he does that same thing. He relives it in his head, and it can take a huge toll. It does. That's why I have cut it down so much. And there's a shelf life to me. I mean, there is a shelf life to the story of Benghazi. It's no big deal. I get it.
I
There's,
don't know if I agree with
well,
that.
yeah, well, if
To
not,
the
maybe that's,
public at large, but the story, I mean, 100 years from now, people will be
you're
talking
right.
about it, I
You're
think.
right. You're right, brother. You're right. But I think that what I'm trying to get at there is that if you speak too much, and I've gone that, you will put a gun to your mouth, which I did.
Yeah.
And it will drive you into toxicity. It will drive you into bad vices, which it did. No excuse, nobody else's fault but my own. And that's when I made the conscious decision, like, I gotta I gotta get back to my wife and my family. I gotta quit doing this stupid shit. And then I gotta cut it down, because I'm gonna, I, I feel the same. I felt the same as when I was coming back from a deployment. I come back from a deployment, and your head's everywhere. You're stressed, you're anxiety, but you want to go hurt people. The adrenaline's kicking in, but the emotions are there. I felt the same with speaking. And after this 2-week trip, I did again. I always do if I'm on a long speaking trip, if I speak 4 or 5 times in a row. But now I'm here, and I said, now I know where to cut it down. I'm taking a month and a half off, no more, and get my head right. So the speaking, and I said, we'll get with Marcus. I think that he's probably adjusted his way of speaking. We all do, if we're speaking from the heart, because we remember things, or we realize some things we don't need to say, where other things we need to magnify. And I do believe that and again, I haven't seen him speak in a long time. I
Yeah.
used to watch him in the beginning, because I needed to learn how to speak, and he was out there, one of the premier speakers, and I was just learning. So I'm watching him and Kenny Thomas, Matt Eversman, other guys like that I wanted to be like I wanted to speak. And I would assume, just like me, his story and his speaking way has probably morphed into something better, because of just, first of all, you got to let that anger go. And he would always speak angry. I would always speak angry. And I've let that go. I'm sure he has. But also, there's lessons learned that we can find out with what happened, not the politics, but the heroism, the honor, the integrity, the self-service, the sacrifice. That's what combat in those stories should be about. And that's what we should be putting out to the corporations and everybody else who wants to listen, not fucking Obama and Hillary left us. Yeah, they did. So what? They did. Okay. It's done. It's over. Let's focus on the guys that we lost, that gave themselves so I could come home, and to protect everybody's freedoms that we all say we want to honor. Well, let's honor that instead. And I'm sure he has, brother.